Today in the show, we have the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by laughingplace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on November 27th, 2024, and here's what's been going on in the world of Disney recently. The confirmed closing of one Muppet attraction and announcement of another, a different live sporting event getting animated, low-key updates to 2 EPCOT attractions, and more.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
Walt Disney World is making its newest paid line-skipping product available to more guests. Originally only available to guests staying at deluxe resorts, Disney's Lightning Lane Premier Pass is now being offered to all resort hotel guests, including moderate and value properties. As a reminder, Lightning Lane Premier allows guests to access each Lightning Lane attraction without a return time. Prices vary by park and by date, with the overall range going from $129 at Disney's Animal Kingdom to a current max of $449 at Magic Kingdom. Lightning Lane Premier Passes are available in limited quantities and are available for purchase 7 days before the start of a guest's trip. A popular EPCOT attraction has quietly received an update. Last week, riders noticed that the finale of Soarin Around the World had been changed to take riders over World Celebration rather than the older Future World scene. On top of that, the preceding clip that flew riders over the Eiffel Tower has been adjusted. Now the scene is presented from a wider view so that the tower doesn't appear as bent as it did to riders on the edges of the screen when the shot was closer. Since Disney hasn't formally announced this update, and it's been left to guest discovery, it's unclear whether the Paris scene in the Disney California Adventure version has also been updated or whether it will be. But it's something to keep an eye out for the next time you go soaring around the world. Remy's Ratatouille adventure at EPCOT has introduced a new way for guests to experience the attraction, a single rider line. While the attraction was built with a single rider line in mind like its cousin at Disneyland Paris, it has not been used at all since the attraction opened in 2021. Guests enter under a single rider sign on the leftmost side of the attraction's entrance. Along with this development, numbers have been added to the back of seats on each ride vehicle, helping to distinguish to guests that there are 3 seats. As always, there's no guarantee that the single rider line will always be available, but it may be worth checking out depending on the standby wait. With the 2025 EPCOT International Festival of the Arts now just around the corner, Walt Disney World has announced the lineup for the Disney on Broadway concert series that's part of the event. Starting things off on January 17th will be Patty Murin and John Riddle of Frozen, followed by fellow Frozen alum Cassie Levy and The Lion King's Jelani Remy. Other performers scheduled to appear during the event include Adam Jacobs, Ashley Brown, Alton Fitzgerald White, Michael James Scott, Kissy Simmons, and more. Disney on Broadway dining packages will be available for booking beginning December 18th at the Walt Disney World website. The packages include a meal from one of 15 EPCOT restaurants and priority seating at one of the Disney on Broadway shows. The EPCOT International Festival of the Arts will run from January 17th to February 24th, 2025. Walt Disney World has shared more details on the new Disney Vacation Club Lounge coming to Magic Kingdom. The location, which replaces the former Frontierland Shootin' Arcade, will be called McKim's Mile House. Disney says the lounge will feature rustic charm, inspired by the adventurous spirit of exploration of a bygone era, and will offer a cozy and convenient retreat for members to share stories and recharge during their day of fun. McKim's Mile House is set to open in summer 2025 at Magic Kingdom. As the evolution of Downtown Disney continues, 2 new retail experiences have been given opening dates. Avengers Reserve, which will celebrate the Marvel fandom and the story of Earth's mightiest heroes, is set to open on December 6th. On that same day, the D-Lander Shop, featuring trend-forward fashions and co-branded apparel, will also debut. As for the whimsical confectionery location Disney Wonderful World of Sweets, it will open sometime this winter, although no specific date was given. Fans eagerly awaiting the arrival of Porto's Bakery and Cafe at the Disneyland Resort since it was first announced back in 2022 have received a big update. As Disney revealed, the upcoming location will be the chain's first to feature table service as well as a full bar. Meanwhile, Disneyland Resort guests on the go can still stop by for the signature cheese rolls, potato balls, and other favorites. Unfortunately, a firm opening timeframe still has yet to be announced, but the Disney Parks blog says to stay tuned for more details in the future. 3 projects from Walt Disney Imagineering have been chosen to receive Themed Entertainment Association THEA Awards in 2025. First, Fantasy Springs at Tokyo Disney Sea and Zootopia at Shanghai Disneyland have both been awarded the prestigious THEA Award for Outstanding Achievement, Theme Park Land. This marks a historic moment as Imagineering secured 2 awards in this category within the same year. Elsewhere, the cutting-edge BDX droids that appeared in Galaxy's Edge will be honored with the THEA Award for Outstanding Achievement, Technical Innovation. With these latest wins, Imagineering has received nearly 70 THEA Awards over the past 3 decades. This winter, Tokyo Disneyland will give guests a sugar rush with their new special event, Vanellope's Sweet Pop World. From January 15th through March 16th, guests will see the Wreck-It Ralph character team up with Mickey Mouse and other Disney icons to bring sweet new experiences to the park, including a new parade, decorations, merchandise, and food offerings. Kicking off the yet-to-be-named parade, Vanellope will be found aboard a candy castle. On another float, Mickey and his rock band will play candy instruments on top of a fruit tart-shaped stage. Throughout Vanellope's Sweet Pop World, cast members with special buckets near World Bazaar and the castle forecourt will hand out pieces of candy to guests who say, "Happy Palpalooza." Elsewhere, guests staying at Tokyo Disney Resort's Disney Ambassador Hotel can book the Disney Palpalooza Vanellope's Sweet Pop World special guest room featuring scrumptious decor. Of course, this is just one of the special events the Tokyo Disney Resort will be hosting in 2025, so there's never a bad time to visit this unique Disney destination. Disneyland Paris has announced the upcoming launch of its first ever Disney Music Festival. This event is designed to enhance guests' experiences at Disneyland Park by offering unforgettable musical moments during their visit. Starting April 19th and running through September 7th, the festival will feature music, concerts, and performances that showcase the vibrant and diverse musical landscapes of Disney and Pixar. Guests will be immersed in a lively atmosphere, featuring a pop-rock concert that honors Disney's most beloved songs, a parade led by Minnie Mouse and her marching band, and the inspiring melodies from Moana. Additionally, the event will present live performances by artists who will bring to life cherished classics alongside contemporary hits from Disney animation and Pixar films, allowing attendees of all ages to enjoy singing and dancing. More information on the Disney Music Festival at Disneyland Paris is expected soon, so be sure to keep an ear out. When Disney Cruise Line christened its new ship the Disney Treasure, it continued tradition by naming a godparent for the ship. However, in this case, the vessel has several godparents, as the company revealed that the honorary role will be granted to the cast, crew, Imagineers, and employees of the Walt Disney Company worldwide. This pays tribute to more than 200,000 individuals whose hard work makes Disney entertainment, vacations, and home experiences possible. As Bob Iger said, "At the core of everything we do at Disney are the dedicated cast members and employees who create the magic that brings joy to millions of people around the world. That's why we are proud to honor all Disney employees as the godparents of the Disney Treasure. This is our way of paying tribute to the dreamers and doers who continue to tell our stories in the most compelling and innovative ways." The animated anthology series Star Wars Visions will be returning for a 3rd season. Volume 3 of Visions will revisit Japan, featuring 9 new animated shorts created by various anime studios in the nation. This follows 2021's first season that also featured 9 Japanese animation studios, as well as the second volume in 2023, which showcased studios from around the world, including the UK, Spain, Ireland, Chile, and more. Star Wars Visions Volume 3 is set to premiere on Disney Plus in 2025, while the first 2 collections are now streaming. Even more Bluey minisodes are headed to Disney+. The third batch of shorts are coming to Disney Junior and Disney Plus on Monday, December 9th, and includes 6 new installments. This is also being billed as the final batch of minisodes, with the previous sets now streaming on Disney Plus, along with all the regular episodes, minus the banned one, of the immensely popular animated show. Next month, another new tile will be coming to Disney+. On December 4th, ESPN on Disney Plus will debut, bringing ESPN content to Disney Plus for subscribers of the Disney Plus Hulu ESPN Plus bundle. Similar to the Hulu on Disney Plus experience, subscribers to all 3 streaming services will have full access to ESPN Plus inside the Disney Plus app. Additionally, select ESPN content will be made available to Disney Plus subscribers. Note that this is separate from the upcoming ESPN flagship offering set to launch in fall 2025 as an over-the-top version of the iconic channel. That said, when the flagship product does launch, it too will be integrated into Disney Plus for subscribers of both services. ABC will be celebrating the 60th anniversary of Mary Poppins with a 2-night event featuring an airing of the film and a new behind-the-scenes documentary. The special event kicks off with the Untold Story of Mary Poppins, a special edition of 2020, on Wednesday, November 27th. This 2-hour special is chock full of rare footage from the premiere event, as well as seldom heard demos of classic Sherman Brothers songs. It will also feature new interviews with Dick Van Dyke, Josh Gad, John Stamos, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, conversations with 2 of Walt Disney's grandchildren, a special interview with Julie Andrews, and more. Interestingly, as part of this Mary Poppins special, another Sherman Brothers classic will be explored with the broadcast debut of The Last Verse. This 3.5-minute film celebrates the timeless message of connection and hope behind the iconic song It's a Small World, and unveils a poignant new verse written by legendary composer Richard Sherman in his final Disney contribution. Finally, on Thursday, November 28th, the celebration continues with an airing of Mary Poppins during The Wonderful World of Disney. The Untold Story of Mary Poppins, a special edition of 2020, will be available to stream on Disney Plus and Hulu beginning Thursday, November 28th, and of course, Mary Poppins can also be found on the service. The Wonderful World of Disney Holiday Spectacular is set to return for its 9th year on ABC, with a sparkling spectacle of new musical performances from Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and Aulani. This year's special is hosted by Julian Hough and Alfonso Ribeira, while Kristen Bell is set to narrate. As for performances, Disney legends Anika Noni Rose and Elton John, as well as John Legend, Seth MacFarlane and Liz Gillies, Ali Cravalho, 17, Ava Max, Leslie Odom Jr. and the Amani Miel Choir, Carly Pierce, and Pentatonix will also appear. The Wonderful World of Disney Holiday Spectacular airs Sunday, December 1st at 8:01 p.m. on ABC, and will be available the next day on Hulu and Disney+. D23, the official Disney fan club, has announced some changes to its Gold membership starting in 2025. Now, the paid subscription will have 3 options at 3 different price points, including a $49.99 Essentials plan, a $99.99 Choice plan, and a $299.99 Complete plan. However, the most notable change is that the included Disney 23 magazine will now be digital and interactive. Meanwhile, although printed copies of the magazine will still be available, members will need to buy them from DisneyStore.com. For more information on these changes and to see the events the fan club has planned for 2025, be sure to visit D23.com. And now it's time to bring back Kyle Burbank from LaughingPlace.com. How you doing this chilly November, Kyle?
It is chilly. I made the mistake of only checking the weather in the morning and not right before I went outside. Huge difference. Big mistake.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
To do my Pretty Woman impression.
I am officially in like sweatshirt weather here in Southern California, which I kind of love. It gets cozy. I just don't like when the rain comes, but I'm enjoying the cozy November. It's great. But Kyle, I've got some good news and some bad news for you.
It's usually how the show works.
And I always start with the bad news so that I can end with the good news. So the bad news is that Muppet Vision 3D at Disney's Hollywood Studios is officially closing for good. Disney has now confirmed that the upcoming Monsters, Inc. land will be built in the area that's currently occupied by the Muppets. In turn, the beloved Muppet Vision 3D attraction will be closing to make way for the new land. Kyle, what's your surprise level here?
I am honestly, I'm not surprised that it's closing in general, but I want to know what they're doing with that other courtyard because it's just, that seems like such a more obvious spot to me. But overall, yeah, I'm not surprised that it's closing. I figured it was definitely a possibility for this project or whatever the next project is.
I'm a little surprised because I was kind of convinced. At first, I was like, oh, Muppet Vision's gone. Like when they first announced the land, I was like, that's it for Muppet Vision. Then I was like, no, I really do think that Animation Courtyard is the better fit. And then I also was really convinced that Rock and Roller Coaster would become the Doors attraction for Monsters, Inc., which of course...
Not the rock band. The Monsters Inc.
Not the rock band, The Doors, the Monsters Inc. ride. But of course, we've got news about Rock and Roller Coaster in a moment. But yeah, I don't know. I'd kind of convinced myself of that. And then on top of it, they have been giving some love to Muppet Vision 3D with updated theater seats and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say I was shocked, but I was definitely like, oh, really? It's actually going to happen? So it's weird. The Jim Henson Company has shared a message on Instagram. It says Jim Henson's final project was Muppet Vision 3D, now regarded as a true theme park classic. Innovation was always Jim Henson's North Star, and his trailblazing career led him to a unique challenge, a truly immersive Muppet experience where audiences are part of the happy chaos of the iconic Muppet Show. Originally debuting in 1991, Muppet Vision 3D combined 3D technology with real-world practical effects alongside animatronic and live Muppet characters. The result was a one-of-a-kind Jim Henson experience and an unforgettable capstone to Jim's magnificent career. As we learn of the show's upcoming closure and its current form at Disney's Hollywood Studios, we look forward to Muppet Vision 3D's next act. So that's an interesting statement, that last statement there. Disney also made a statement we'll get to in a little bit, but Disney did not announce a closing date for Muppet Vision 3D. So who really knows how much longer we have? I kind of, when I was there in October, I experienced it, fully knowing this may be the last time. I hope it's not. I hope I get one more chance, but we'll see. But Disney also said, quote, "They are exploring ways to preserve the film and other parts of the experience for fans to enjoy in the future." I'm not getting my hopes up with this, but this is an exciting statement. They don't normally say this.
Yeah, and I think a good chunk of it can be like, yeah, you kind of mentioned the animatronics and the in-theater person, but let's face it, most of it is just a 3D film and a awesome pre-show, which must be preserved along with it. That's also part of the experience. But yeah, if I could watch the film itself on Disney Plus, like that's not the same thing, but it's definitely nice to have like an official, and it's in digital already. They've already converted it to digital, so it's not that hard to make that transfer.
Yeah, and it's not unprecedented. So Shrek 4D was an attraction at the Universal Parks, which became part of like Shrek Halloween DVD set. I think they changed the name of it from Shrek 4D to Lord Farquaad's Ghost or something like that.
Yeah, it used to be streaming on Netflix as well.
Okay, so, not unprecedented in that sense. The difficulty is Muppet Vision 3D does talk about 3D a lot, right? Like the whole film is about it being in 3D. So that's a little harder to translate to 2D.
Yeah, they could do some some cheap 3D tricks. Kind of do that thing where they letterbox it, but then they allow the images to go out to like cross over.
Sure.
And break those borders. So you could do like little things like that to kind of sell the illusion. Or, something I've seen people talk about is the Apple Vision Pro and MetaQuest and things like that, where you could have like a VR version of the experience available.
Yeah, I mean, it is historically significant. It's the last time Jim Henson directed something. I believe it's the last, moment on film where Jim performed Kermit the Frog. And, it's an important part of Muppet history, Disney history. It's really wild to go back and look at how much Muppets has been in that park through the years. Like, more than I think people realize. They had multiple live shows.
Full-size walk-arounds.
Yeah, full-size walk-around characters, parts of parades, obviously Muppet Vision 3D. They had multiple live stage shows in multiple locations. Pizza Rizzo is there. Of course, it was supposed to be more than it was, that we never got the full Muppet land we were supposed to get. But it is an important part of that park and significant. But in any case, the Monsters, Inc. land is taking over that land. It's picking up after the events of Pixar Animation Studios' beloved film. And humans have now been invited to visit the world of Monsters, Inc. Guests will be able to see the sights, hear the laughs, and zoom through the building just like Sully and Mike Wazowski. The land will include Disney's first ever suspended coaster, which will be employed to bring the iconic Doors scene to life. But not where Rock and Roller Coaster is. Because as I said, there is good news that comes along with this bad news. The good news is the Muppets will remain in Disney's Hollywood studios with yet another Muppet option. The Muppets will be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster. And this one shook me. I read not only in the Laughing Place article, but several other places that this was a rumor. I gotta be honest, I never heard this rumor. I had heard the dreams of Powerline. I had even heard people dreaming of Hannah Montana. I had never heard the Muppets.
Well, I'd heard it referred to as the Electric Mayhem, especially when the show came out. But I wrote the Laughing Place article, and I could tell you that when I said long rumored, I basically meant the replacing of Aerosmith from Rock and Roller Coaster. And yeah, the Muppets were, one of the things that were thrown out there, but still surprising nonetheless, especially with the show getting canceled.
Yeah, I literally texted you, the image that was released and was like, is this for real? Like, I couldn't believe it. It was from a respectable source that, I read it first, but I was kind of shocked by it. And once again, I still don't understand why. They better have something grand planned for Animation Courtyard. Because if it remains as it is and they knock down the Muppets for Monsters, Inc.
And they really delayed the Little Mermaid show for a new, whatever it was, marquee.
Yeah, it's crazy. But a Rock and Roller Coaster with the Muppets, listen, Rock and Roller Coaster is just a roller coaster in my opinion. It's not something I feel the need to hit up every time I go to the park. It's a roller coaster with some neon light painted flats. It's nothing that fantastic, but people love it. I hope it's better with the Muppets.
Yeah, that's kind of the question. It's so much of it's in the dark with just some generic set pieces. It's hard to really make the Muppet part stand out. I mean, I guess they could add some videos and stuff. I guess you could look at what they've done in Paris with their version of Rock and Roller Coaster, which is now the Avengers flight, whatever
it's
it is.
It's an Iron Man thing, right?
Yeah, it's an Iron Man Avengers coaster. But I think realists are going to say most of the Muppet presence will be in the pre-show, which I think is a good use for them. There's plenty of rooms there. There's places for posters. So all of that fun from Muppet Vision can be carried over. And I have a feeling this will be one of those attractions where you have a lot of people going through the queue, and they should just make a joke of the chicken exit. Have Fozzie make a chicken exit joke and make that very prominent, because I feel like a lot of people will actually be using that.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I foresee this as having the same pre-show, just with Muppets instead of Aerosmith. I don't mean literally the same script or anything, but I think it's going to be the same setup where you're at a recording studio and the Muppets are in the window, or on the other side of the window there. That's what I'm expecting. So, and hopefully some good music. But here's what I find interesting. It says that they'll be teaming up with some of music's biggest stars for a rock and music festival. Now, I find this interesting. I would expect that part of the reason to do this is to save money on licensing rights for music and therefore just do Muppet music, which they own.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. But before I get to that, I do need to make a correction for myself. I said Fozzie because I was thinking like a rubber chicken, but I realized a better joke for the chicken exit is Gonzo. Yeah, so I just had to, before we get emails, yes, I got there eventually. But there's an album called The Green Album.
Yes.
Which is Paramore and Alkaline Trio and a bunch of different artists doing Muppet songs. Mm-hmm. So if you did something like that, then you kind of have the best of both worlds, no pun intended, because that was another rumored replacement for Rock and Roller Coaster.
Let me ask you this, and gosh, I should know the answer to this question, but Rock and Roller Coaster Starring Aerosmith, was it always the same song, or did they change the song?
There were different options.
Okay.
I don't know how many different. That's an Aaron Wallace question for sure. He knows. But I think there's even Love in a Roller Coaster and Love in an Elevator. And I think it also, each one played like a few different songs.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to assume that this is going to be multiple tracks depending on, when you ride, and just for repeat visit, reasons, just like Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. It makes you want to ride it over and over again. Although, to be honest, I love it when people are like, oh, I've heard this song and this song and this song on Guardians of the Galaxy, but not this and this. I'm like, literally, I never pay attention to what the song is. I'm like, I walk off 5 minutes later, I can't even tell you what song was played. But a lot of people pay close attention to that.
If it were show tunes, you would know.
That is true. I probably would notice more. So yeah, some big music stars coming through. Hopefully there are multiple, so that when there's some sort of scandal with a celebrity, they can remove it very easily and replace it with another, because that's sure to happen. Hopefully they didn't have any P. Diddy tracks in the choosing.
I don't think they did, and I think they could. They have plenty of time if they want to exercise that one from the playlist.
This attraction will mark Disney's first ever ride to feature the Muppets, which is kind of crazy to think about. As I said, lots of Muppet representation from an attraction to restaurants to shows.
But we never got the Great Muppet Movie Ride.
That is something I will never forgive. I wanted the Great Muppet Movie Ride parody so badly. Such a great idea. So yeah, the first ever ride, which is crazy. And by the way, the Muppets currently appearing as part of Jollywood Nights in Disney's Hollywood Studios as well. Now, here's what I really, really, really want, Kyle. Disney did not announce closing dates for Muppet Vision 3D or Rock and Roller Coaster Starring Aerosmith, but stated that there's still time for guests to experience both. Here's what I want. I'm not expecting it to happen because I feel like the timeline just won't work out this way as far as breaking ground for Monsters, Inc. But I would love for the closing and the opening to overlap, meaning I want Muppet Vision 3D to still be open for, even if it's just for a few weeks or a month, while Rock and Roller Coaster with the Electric Mayhem opens, so that there can be a really great, like, kind of Muppet event. Do a after dark hard ticket Muppet event in that park. That would be a dream. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be such a dream.
I mean, that does seem like the easier project, right? So, it's not impossible, and I would love it. But yeah, who knows what their timeline is, their plans are. They have so much stuff, and a lot of it was just like, we're going to start it in 2 years. You'll see it in 10.
Yeah, I think that they had to announce it, because my guess is that we're going to see permits being pulled very quickly for the Monsters, Inc. land, and once permits are pulled, that's when, the rumors become official and the fan sites that stock down permits and such. So, I do dream of that. I think that would be a really great way to say a farewell. I'll be curious to see. I think they're going to give Muppet Vision 3D a proper farewell. I'll be disappointed if they don't. I think they will.
The theater will suffer only minor damage.
Yeah. Wow, gosh. So what do you think they mean by, like, it's going to live on in some way? So obviously the easy thing here is Disney Plus. Like I said, I don't want to get my hopes up for any of this, but I think they'll probably save some of the animatronics and we'll see them in Disney Archive exhibits, something like that. I'm not hoping for much, physical wise other than something like that. The thing that does surprise me though, is that this attraction never made it beyond the States, because the Muppets are so slapstick and so physical. And that's the kind of comedy that translates overseas, even with a language barrier. I don't know what the fandom of the Muppets is overseas, but I do feel like their style of comedy lends itself to any language. So I'm a little surprised. This is the first and the last, as DCA's Muppet Vision 3D opened later and closed sooner. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. If you had to guess, what do you think the timeline is for closure?
I'd say within the next year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure the next year. You think it could go up to a year?
After the summer, maybe? I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe September or something, so the summer crowds can get it. We'll see. But in any case, that is happening. Anything else you want to add about the Muppets and Disney's Hollywood Studios?
We'll see what happens. Maybe, John Mayer and whoever else just bought that studio, maybe they'll move it there.
It's true.
Or they'll move it to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, you should explain further what you mean about the John Mayer comment in case folks don't know.
Oh, the Jim Henson lot on La Brea. John Mayer and was it Mick G? Is that the other person that bought it with him?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, the two music artists bought the Jim Henson Company lot, which used to be...
Well, Mick G is a director. I don't know if he does music.
I thought he was involved with music somehow.
I think he makes music videos, maybe.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Because I remember him... Wasn't he like heavily involved with the OC or something?
I don't know. He directed like Charlie's Angels and stuff.
He was part of my TRL days, for sure. Like, his name is very familiar to me from something those days. But in any case... Him and John Mayer bought the Jim Henson Company lot in Hollywood, which was the Charlie Chaplin Studios. Honestly, I think this is, we knew that Jim Henson Company was moving. I've talked about this on the House of Mouse headlines before. And I think this is good because I know that they have a really nice recording studio on the Jim Henson Company lot. And my guess is that's why they bought it. It sounds like a pair of people who will respect the lot's history, both in the Charlie Chaplin sense and the Muppets or the Jim Henson sense. So, it's good. I'm glad it's not going to be bulldozed for condos or something. In any case, Kyle, I have some more bad news and good news.
Okay.
Once again, I'll start.
Shot chaser.
Once again, I will start with the bad news so that it can wrap up with the good news. So, folks, as you've probably noticed, the title of this episode mentions the future of Disney Coast to Coast. Now, Kyle, how many DCTC full episodes, not counting the minisodes between seasons, how many full episodes do you think I've hosted and produced over the years?
What season is this?
This is season 11.
Okay, I'm going to guess it would be 400 something.
This episode we're recording right now is the 648th full episode of Disney Coast to Coast.
That's more than I said.
Yeah, 648, Kyle. By the end of this season, there will be 651. So that's a lot. It's a lot of episodes. Many of them are evergreen episodes that can still be enjoyed today. I'm sure many of you haven't heard them all. For those of you who have listened to them all, and I know there are some of you out there who have, you amaze me, and I couldn't be more grateful. But for many reasons that I'll explain, Disney Coast to Coast will be going from a once-a-week schedule to once a month in 2025. So, why am I doing this, you might ask? Well, since 2014, 10 years ago, I have never missed a Wednesday release unless it was during a scheduled hiatus. I am not stating this for any sort of congratulations from anyone. It's simply a stupid pressure that I put on myself. But I do. I take my commitment to the listening audience very seriously when I say that there will be a new episode every Wednesday. And over the course of 10 years, a lot of life happens, and through it all, I always kept my commitment to the listeners even when life made it hard. And this past year was extremely difficult some weeks as I was releasing an episode of DCTC while working on live events, producing my own Hocus Pocus event, plus 31 episodes of that Halloween podcast in 1 month, and life on top of that. Once again, it's a lot. Speaking of that Halloween podcast, when I launched it in 2020, I started the Podcast Network so that I had a central hub to produce and host multiple podcasts, but there have only been the 2 since 2020. I have a lot of podcast ideas I would like to make a reality, but there's absolutely no way for me to do that with an open-ended weekly podcast constantly in place. I'm not promising any new podcasts in 2025, but eventually there will be more. And trust me, folks, I have heard you, the many of you who have requested that Christmas podcast. I've heard you. I'm working on it. Not for this year, maybe not for 2025, but I've heard you. Additionally, it's no secret that I'm pretty unhappy with the way the Walt Disney Company is being run these days, especially the theme parks. I do believe it's important to discuss the company with rose-colored glasses removed, but regularly talking about things that repeatedly disappoint can get a bit tiresome. I'm tired of talking about new ways to upcharge guests in an a la carte fashion. I'm tired of discussing the class system that's been created in the parks. I'm tired of talking about layoffs and live entertainment leaving the parks due to budget cuts. I've talked a lot about specialty foods and merchandise. It's to the point that I feel like any regular listener knows how I feel about these things before even listening to a new episode. Perhaps it'll be more fun to talk about these things when a new regime is in place, but Iger's contract doesn't end until the end of 2026, and there probably won't be any major changes until at least mid-2027. That's a long time to keep talking about the current regime's often disappointing decisions. So now, let's talk about the House of Mouse headlines specifically for a minute. Kyle, I give you all the credit for single-handedly saving the House of Mouse headlines several years ago. Do you remember how that all went down?
We were at Universal Studios. We were at City Walk, and you mentioned you were probably going to cut it. Because I forgot that you did 2 episodes a week for a while, which is why my count was so off. And I was like, well, what do you need help with? And I was like, well, maybe we can work something out. Laughing Place can take some of the burden off.
There were a couple seasons. It was either 2 or 3 seasons where I was doing 2 episodes a week, which is insane. I was like doing the Wednesday hour episode, and then Sundays I was doing a House of Mouse headlines that was just me, fully scripted, and me pulling on the news, writing the script, obviously recording, producing, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I cannot maintain this anymore. And so I was going to retire the House of Mouse headlines. Then I explained this to you. And exactly what you said. You're like, what do you need for this? And I was like, well, the thing that takes the time mostly is capturing all the news, keeping track of it all, and writing the script. I can record it, I can edit it, I can release it, but I can't do all that. And you, I mean, out of nowhere, completely shocked when you were just like, a Laughing Place can take care of that. And that's how it's been for several seasons now. And you jumped in to start chatting with me, and it's truly been a joy. But I think going to once a month, the whole House of Mouse headlines format just doesn't fit that anymore. So with the new once a month format starting in 2025, the House of Mouse headlines will be retired after the December 11th episode of this year. So the rest of this year, I have an episode December 4th, 11th, and 18th. The 18th is the season finale. That middle episode, so 2 weeks from this one, on the 11th, that will be the final House of Mouse headlines. This does not mean that I will no longer be discussing anything current. If there's a new ride that opens or any major news I find worthy of a full episode, I will discuss it on that podcast episode, along with my interviews and deep dive discussions. And Kyle, I certainly hope you return at some point, as you've been the best collaborator on this podcast, and you just make me laugh a lot. So I hope you come back at some point.
Thank you. I hope to.
As promised, now for some related good news. Typically, the podcast begins a new season at the end of February, but in 2025, the season 12 debut will be sometime in January, so about a month earlier. In other good news for patrons of DCTC over on Patreon, what is now a once every other month live stream will become every month in 2025. There, we can discuss the current Disney news you'd typically hear in the House of Mouse headlines in a more informal fashion. And Kyle will be joining me for those when he's able. So yay for that, Kyle. We can talk. People will be able to hear the stuff that I edit out over on the Patreon.
Oh, well, that's... Yeah, okay.
This feature is available to every paid Patreon member at any level. There will be some updates and new additions coming to Patreon by the end of this year, so check that out if you're not a member already a little bit later on this year. And I'm excited for you to join for the live streams. It's a fun group that shows up, and I think they'll be very happy to have you join us. And speaking of Patreon, thank you to Teresa, Erica, Jeremy, Robert, Sarah, Leah, Faith, Bonnie, Jeffrey, Jerry, Jared, Philip, Diego, and Monet. I can't thank you all enough for being Patreon supporters of this podcast, and I hope to see some additional new faces during our live streams in 2025. I think that covers everything in relation to this news. Kyle, pretend you're a DCTC listener for a moment. Are there any other questions you can think of at this moment related to this?
I am a DCTC listener. I listened to your conversation with Albert last week about Raya and the Last Dragon.
Let me rephrase it.
I still have not watched.
Let me rephrase that. Pretend you're only a DCTC listener who has nothing to do with the behind the scenes. Any other questions you can think of related to this that I should talk about, or any thoughts you'd just like to add?
No, I think it makes sense. I think this will give you a chance to dive in on some topics and do some more things. And, you don't have to have an entire episode dedicated to one thing. You could talk about a couple different segments. You're going to feel it out. I know you're going to do great because you always do.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Folks, if you do have questions or any thoughts, you can always email me or leave a voicemail with the info in this episode's description. So let's move on from there, because Kyle, I've got a lot of comments from listeners about me discussing sports on the show.
I was going to say, I mean, thinking about the listeners, I thought you were going to say you've been getting a lot of requests for that Friends idea, because that's a winner.
Listen, the Friends idea is not dead. It's on. I have a list. I have a reasonably sized list of podcast ideas, and all of them are being considered. So I'm just trying to give myself at least the first 6 months of 2025 to like breathe a little bit.
Good idea.
I need to breathe.
But sports.
But sports. Folks enjoy me talking about sports, apparently. Go sports. And here's some more sports news for a good laugh for y'all. The first real-time animated NBA game will take place on Christmas Day, December 25th at noon Eastern Time, making use of Sony's Beyond Sports technology. This might sound familiar. We were just talking about The Simpsons and football. It was football, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The virtual live recreation of the Spurs versus Knicks game will be set on Main Street, USA at Magic Kingdom, while Mickey Mouse...
What cities are they from?
Oh, Spurs and Knicks? I don't even think I have guesses. Is one of them LA? No. Spurs...
That's the Lakers and Clippers.
Spurs and Knicks. Spurs, I'm going to say Texas, because they have Spurs in their boots.
Texas is a state. Yes, it is a city in Texas. You're not going to get it. It's San Antonio.
I was so
but
close.
I give you credit for Texas.
So close to saying San Antonio. You cut me off. No, I was not at all. Knicks. It's New York.
Do you know what Knicks is short for?
Nickelodeon. No, wait a sec. Let me think. Something New York related that Knicks.
I mean, I don't know if it's really New York related. It's just it's a fun word.
Knicks. I don't know. What is Knicks short for?
Knickerbockers.
Oh, is that real?
Yes.
All right. I take your word for it. Interesting. In any case, this game will be set on Main Street, USA at the Magic Kingdom, while Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Pluto, Goofy, and Chip and Dale cheer their teams on. Other iconic landmarks within Magic Kingdom will be featured as well, such as Cinderella Castle. The storyline of Dunk the Halls consists of Mickey's Christmas wish to Santa Claus to bring the NBA players to Main Street, USA to play the first animated NBA game on Christmas Day. Each Spurs and Knicks player will appear as a motion-enabled animated player, making use of the state-of-the-art real-time visualization technology enabled by Sony's Beyond Sports, combined with Sony's Hawkeye Innovations optical tracking. Fans watching Dunk the Halls will see every three-pointer, dunk, layup, pass, and more from the real-life Spurs versus Knicks game at Madison Square Garden in New York as it happens. I could be a sports announcer, right?
I like how they saved the most exciting for last. Ooh, passes.
Woo, passes.
That's the action I'm there for.
Drew Carter will serve as the play-by-play commentator alongside ESPN basketball analyst Monica McNutt, who will be joined by Daisy Duck, who will serve as the sideline reporter. All 5 NBA Christmas games on December 25th will be available on ABC, ESPN, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. At halftime of the Spurs versus Knicks game, the Disney characters led by Mickey Mouse will compete in a special slam dunk contest. I'm predicting Goofy is best at the slam dunks. Just the height alone, right?
I would imagine if they could have an arc, if they get a few different dunks, that he totally biffs the first 2, but then like the third one, he messes up, but he does so in a way that it's actually really impressive.
Yeah.
And then he wins.
Although it's all live, so no one knows what's going to happen with Goofy. It's all live. Santa's elves will operate the cameras for the game, while Santa himself will operate ESPN's Skycam during the game. The Disney characters will deliver pre-game and halftime speeches to the players and decorate a large Christmas tree during the game. Fans will also get to find out if it will snow on Main Street, USA. I have a feeling it will, and see how many churros Goofy can eat. I bet it's less than there are DCTC episodes.
I would think so. I'd take the ender.
So why did I want to talk about this, Kyle? I want to talk about this because, not only because folks enjoy me talking about sports, apparently. Should I just create more podcasts where I talk about stuff that I know nothing about? Is that enjoyable?
That could be the whole frame of it. Like you just, instead of just focusing on Friends or just on sports, you have Jeff learns a thing.
Jeff learns a
every
thing.
episode. You experience something you've been told about for years and have never actually done properly.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. I want to talk about this because I really want to discuss, why are they doing these? Like, what is the benefit of this? Why are there so many of these things happening now?
Synergy. No, ESPN's a big part of the brand. And obviously cable TV is dying. So, they're bringing the ESPN to Disney Plus. You want kids to get interested in sports.
So do you think it benefits ESPN more or Disney more? Do you think it's introducing people to ESPN or getting...
Well, Disney is ESPN. Like, that's the whole point.
I get that. But I mean, obviously ESPN has had some struggles as far as views. You think that that's the goal, is to get more eyes on ESPN?
ESPN content, not necessarily the channel, because obviously they're cannibalizing that by having an alternate broadcast. But as they're moving ESPN to be its own standalone thing that is unbundled from cable, they want it to continue to be the brand in sports.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I don't quite understand it, but hey, go sports.
Oh boy. Everybody loves some synergy.
That was Kyle, folks. Listen to him. All right, so there's that. Kyle, this next story I know you wanted to talk about, as Disneyland Paris has introduced a new dynamic dated ticket price system, which will see prices within each range fluctuate depending on variable factors. Do you want to take over for this one?
I couldn't script it. So that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Fair enough.
So everyone, I think people probably are a little bit more familiar with like how Disneyland is currently like the easiest ticketing process between Walt Disney World and Disneyland Paris. Well, yeah, because at least then I can predict how much stuff's going to be. At Walt Disney World, there's prices, but figuring out what any individual day is kind of complicated. Okay. But anyway, so at Disneyland, you have 6 or 7 tiers, right? So you can look 6 months in the future and say, oh, that is a tier 1 day. That is... I don't know how much a tier 1 day, but tier 0 day is, I think, $104, right? Mm-hmm. So it's similar at Disneyland Paris now, except that instead of it being tier 1 is or tier 0 is $104, it could be between $104 and $100 and let's say $30. And it depends on demand. And so when you go to the site, you'll see current prices. And if you choose one, you have 60 minutes to check out. If you don't buy it within that time, it could change. So if they announce a new attraction is opening May 2nd or something like that, and people go to buy tickets for it, you could see the price rise in real time or near real time because you have an hour to book it. So it's just another layer of complexity, and obviously, getting every dollar out of it. And, Disneyland Paris does have a history to where they were the first, they had that premier access, which was they paid fast pass thing. So I wonder if this, depending on how it's received, whether something like this could be next for stateside.
Is it ever received well? I don't think it matters anymore how it's received.
I think how the system works, how the system is received, as far as internally does it work.
Yeah, how much more
what are
money
they seeing in terms of, do they make money?
Yeah. So they're basically tiers within tiers, is what you're saying.
Worlds within worlds. Yeah. So it's all very... Imagine like if they had surge pricing for churros. Like, oh, the line's a little bit long. Let's raise it 50 cents and see if people still want one. It's like that, except that it's tickets. So if you're booking a trip, you could imagine like you budget for a certain amount, and then when you get around to booking it, if it somehow gets busier, then now you could be paying an extra $20 per person per day or something.
This is like an airlines, essentially, is what it sounds like.
Or hotels, and that's what they'll, if they ever do bring it stateside. I don't think Paris has to answer to anybody, but if they ever brought it back, they'd be like, oh yeah, these other things use dynamic pricing, and we're all okay with it.
No, we're not okay with it. We hate airlines.
I'm just telling you what they'll say. I can predict what that'll be the messaging that they'll send, is that this is not a new thing, except that it is a completely new thing. Because that's what they did when they did the previous. Remember, ticket to Disneyland was the same price every day of the year, and now it's not. And that's something that we've gotten used to over the past decade.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to figure out a way to put like a resort fee on theme park admission. Resort fees, nothing drives me more crazy than a resort fee. Parking fees and resort fees are such made up fees.
Well, see, but at least the point of resort fees, though, is to give them an advantage on the competition when you're looking on online portals. Disney doesn't have any reason to compete with itself. Like, I'm not saying they wouldn't do it, but there's not really a reason, because they don't need to make their price look better versus somebody else. Unless, if they want to do something with Universal, then yeah, they could sneak that in there. So you're like, oh, it's only $120 to go to Disney. It's $140 to go to Universal, except that, oh, there's a $30 gate tax or something like that.
Yeah, here's what I am curious to find out. Like, so we compared it to an airline, which I think it's reasonably well known, and I don't think it's a rumor, that airlines and hotels will kind of pressure you into buying in that moment, meaning you could leave the site, come back later, and it'll recognize that you personally had already visited and changed the price to a higher price so that you'll book then, with fear of it raising again if you leave again. I'm curious if that ever becomes a thing with the tickets, and what that means is everybody turn on your VPN when...
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. You get a VPN if you don't have one, and start using it when you buy theme park tickets. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. This is terrible, right? Like, this is terrible. But I think you're right. Paris is going to test this, and then we're going to bring it stateside. Yikes. The parks are a nightmare. They're just a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, the ticketing system, especially at Walt Disney World, like, I have no idea how any of it works anymore.
Yeah, it's really sad. Anywho, there's that. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Kyle. I want to go back to D23 Brazil for a moment, because something we didn't talk about was some news we got about the new Villains Land coming to Magic Kingdom, because at D23 Brazil, a villain mood board was shared showcasing the characters who are set to be heavily inspiring the new land at Magic Kingdom. Included in this board are the Queen of Hearts, Jafar, the evil queen/hag, Lady Tremaine, Yzma, Cruella, Captain Hook, Maleficent, Gaston, Mother Gothel, Ursula, Hades, and Chernabog. So that is quite the list of villains there. Where is Frollo? That's what I want to know.
Here's the thing. I don't think we should be reading into this too much. I think this was just I don't want to say lazy. I think this was just a graphic they threw together to be like, yeah, we're doing Villains Land. Because a lot of the D23 Brazil, they had some minor announcements, but it felt like more of just like recapping stuff. But of course, they want to make it exciting. So they said, like, yeah, here, we're doing Villains Land. It's inspired by, here are some of the villains that are inspired by. So I don't think that it was really meant to be like, here's the official list of characters you'll see in the land. And adding to that, all the art was from Lorcana cards.
Yeah.
So unless, I would love it if they somehow decided to call this new Villains Land Lorcana and had the villains take it over somehow, like, that would be mind-blowing. If they somehow tie this TCG years from now into a theme park land, then I will, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to make up some hyperbole there, but that would be impressive. But my guess is that they just took some cool art and put it on the screen and be like, yeah, we're building that land. Next thing. So I think we're reading too much into it.
If this happens, Kyle will light a dragon on fire. That's what he'll do.
And it'll fly over Fantasyland for one night.
So Kyle, you jest, but I could totally see this happening. Lorcana
I don't
is
jest.
massive.
I think it would be awesome. And I would be so impressed.
So wait a sec. I know you cover Lorcana for Laughing Place, but are you a fan?
I don't know the story. I know
it sounds like you've become a fan.
I really enjoy the art.
You enjoy the art?
I'm a fan of the art, and like the game is kind of fun. We actually just did a couple months ago, they released like a new version where you could kind of like learn to play and learn the mechanics. I'm still not very good at it, but I learned so much going to the panel at D23 and being like, oh, all of these things actually mean stuff. And this latest set that just came out, all the cards have like the ocean and stuff in the background, so it's kind of, you're seeing I'm seeing the story more, whereas it's something that I've never paid attention to, the story of Lorcana.
Here's the thing, Kyle. I think it's a genius idea that I hadn't thought about. I think they first of all, what does the word Lorcana mean? Is that a land?
I think it's a location. I think it's this world.
Okay. I think Lorcana has a nice ring to it. I think Lorcana, the Villains Land, would be an awesome name for this. Although I feel like they might have learned some lessons with like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and the whole Batu thing and stuff. I don't know. They'd have to really consider that. But Lorcana is a cool name. And I also think, obviously, the game is hugely popular. I don't think it's a fad. I think it'll continue on for a while. I also feel like if you know nothing about Lorcana, it wouldn't matter. I think you could still enjoy the Villains Land without knowing it, but I think you could really add some deep gameplay into the... Wow, Kyle, you've kind of blown my mind, and I'm thinking about this land totally differently.
And it also gives them a chance to have different types of... And if they don't want to just have villains, you could have... They're called Floodborn heroes, these kind of alternate versions. You could have steampunk, you could have, all sorts of other like battling heroes taking on these villains and make some sort of show out of that or whatever. So there's tons of opportunity if they wanted to take some of the art we're seeing from Lorcana, which is going to continue to have updates every quarter.
Yeah.
And integrate that and turn, and like you said, even if it does go away, like just taking the ideas from it and taking the aesthetics from it could be really cool.
Wow, you've kind of blown my mind. And frankly, if somebody's listening from Imagineering and this hasn't been considered, show up to work and share this and take full credit and send the check to Kyle later. But wow, kind of mind blown. Huh. I'll be interested to see what happens. But in any case, Kyle, I experienced a little something for the first time called Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Whoa.
What?
What'd you think?
I almost went on it at Magic Kingdom, but the timing just missed. It didn't work out. So my first experience was here at Disneyland. I went for Media Day for Attractions Magazine. They threw an awesome party for this Media Day.
I saw.
They shut down New Orleans Square for us. They pulled out the purple carpet. They did the show on the Mark Twain and the Rivers of America. That, obviously a little bit different, but I loved that Tiana Riverboat show that they had. I don't know if it was when the film came out or when the DVD came out. I can't remember. I think it was when the film came out. It was this limited time show. It was phenomenal. Honestly, one of my favorite live entertainment offerings ever at a Disney park. And they did a version of it with Anika Noni Rose and Jennifer Lewis, the voices of Tiana and Mama Odie. It was awesome. The food was great. It was not theme park food. It was like catered food. It was really good. Nolan's food. And the ride was so much fun. My biggest fear was getting soaked. This is what everybody was talking about, and I was concerned about it. Luckily for us, the media, they gave us our own logs, and we sat in the center for weight balance, and they gave us ponchos. So, frankly, even if I didn't have the poncho, you wouldn't have needed it because being the only one on the log, you didn't get soaked. So it was all about weight distribution. I did interview an Imagineer involved with the attraction and asked, I'm like, what's the deal with people getting soaked? Like, this seems so much wetter than Splash Mountain. And they completely deny it. They're like, y'all's memory is bad. You're getting no wetter. It's the same exact ride. And I was like, okay, but people are getting soaked. I'm seeing like flooded logs. So they didn't have a good answer, but I didn't get soaked. The ride's a lot of fun. The animatronics are great. The song is spectacular. And I know, it wasn't the first time I was hearing it, but something about hearing it in the attraction was just so much better. And God, is it an earworm. And I will say, they're kind of knocking it out of the park, as no pun intended, as far as original songs for attractions lately. For a very long time, we didn't have any, or we didn't have any good ones. And then we get, Nothing Can Stop Us Now from Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is great. And we get Special Spice from Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is fantastic. So really enjoying that.
Well, it's so that they can then put it on streaming and then claim your videos. And so it's just, they get their money back.
Fair enough. But if you're thinking just about guest experience in the park, which frankly they're not, so you're probably right.
I'm joking. That is a thing that happens, but I'm joking about that being the impetus.
My one complaint, or maybe two complaints about the attraction, is the story is hard to tell. To be fair, the first time I wrote it, I was shooting video of it. So like my concentration was really on getting good shots. Then I wrote it again, not having to do that and just enjoying it. And
I was like, oh, we shrunk? Like, like there were just definitely story points that I didn't get first time through. And frankly, it feels like a weak story to me. It's not a very strong story. The music is great, not a strong story. Would love a villain in there. We don't have one. There is no Dr. Facilier, but it's a fun ride. It's a really fun ride. I wouldn't pay for an individual lightning lane, but I wouldn't pay for an individual lightning lane for anything. So,
well, there's also non-individual lightning lanes. It's still individual or whatever, but it's a part of multipass.
Oh, it's part of multipass. Okay, whatever. So yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad to have finally done it. It's beautifully lit at night, really really gorgeous. And at some time soon, I'll do it at Walt Disney World and compare the two.
The consensus so far is that it seems like it's better fit in Disneyland.
For sure.
And that at Walt Disney World, there's too much space, and it's probably because they planned it for the Disneyland one.
Yeah, they did say that they really kind of designed it based on the Disneyland track, which I found fascinating. I did ask the Imagineers as well, as like, why Bayou Country? Why not just expand New Orleans Square? And what the heck does Winnie the Pooh have to do with Bayou Country? And they were just like, well, they're talking critters, so they fit. And I was like, okay. It was a very lame.
You're like, yeah, and so they also fit in Critter Country.
Yeah, it was a very non-answer that I got. And listen, we all know it. They know it. They're just doing their job, having to tell them what Disney tells them to say. So whatever. But a fun ride nonetheless. And happy to have it back open. Happy to have not been soaked and all that fun stuff. Oh, and by the way, that awesome party they threw for us, this was like a 2-day event. This awesome party they threw for us, they had Tiana and Naveen out there in these beautiful party costumes that apparently guests will not see. They were made simply for this party, which always blows my mind. At least as of right now, there's no other plans for them. I always find that crazy.
Tiana does have a lot of outfits these days, it seems.
Yeah, so there was that. Also, that same media couple days, we're celebrating Christmas and the holidays at Disneyland. So a couple of the new things I saw was Mirabelle's Gifts of the Season, which is that new show coming to or at Disney California Adventure. I need to rewatch Encanto. I don't think I like Encanto, but I also really want to...
Maybe they're just making you dislike Encanto between the EPCOT show and...
maybe. This. I mean, this is better than the EPCOT show, which isn't saying much, but it was really interesting. First of all, it's really not a holiday show. It's an Encanto show with a very, very, very weak holiday through line, which was annoying. And then... a lot of the characters are in it. I know that was something we were discussing at one point, is Bruno in it, yada, yada, yada. A lot of those characters are in it, but because of contracts, unions, whatever, they don't speak or sing. So they have secondary performers, chorus performers, singing the songs for those characters while they pose and move and stuff like that. So that was odd. I was like, this feels like this show is double cast. Like there's double the amount of performers as there needs to be simply because these characters don't sing. So that was really kind of weird to me. And I just don't think I like Encanto. I don't find any of that music good. Not an Encanto fan, but I want to see the movie again and give it another chance, I guess. So there was that. Did you see video of it by any chance?
I haven't.
No.
We have one on Laughing Place, but I haven't watched it.
Of course, because I saw Laughing Place recording it. I saw Mr. Mike Celestino there and doing it. And another new show, a musical Christmas with Mariachi Alegria de Disneyland and Miguel. This was definitely much more of a Christmas show. Pretty much exactly what you would expect. Mariachi music, Christmas tunes. And this takes place right in front of the Carthay Circle, kind of where the Five and Dime perform, or exactly where the Five and Dime perform. And the one thing is, Miguel is the mascot character. And, we talked about that. I assumed it going in. I was really hoping for a live singer, especially now since we've seen there is a live singing Miguel for the first time ever on the Disney Treasure. I was like, oh, so it's happening? I wish we had gotten that at Disneyland. That would have been great.
Maybe next year. But yeah, it's a nice little show that happens after the sun sets and a nice addition to the holiday offerings at Disneyland Resort. So there was that. And other than that, I just hope everyone listening in America has a happy Thanksgiving, happy Moana 2 weekend. Let's see if it can top Wicked. I guess that's the battle to happen.
If we remember correctly, Moana 2 moved its date in fear of Wicked, didn't it?
I thought it was the other way around.
Was it the other way around?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I think it was Moana 2 changed, but I could be mistaken.
Well, Moana 2 was announced late. In terms of like how much you'd usually expect. Because I feel like it came out, we're like, oh, it's already November?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I remember the date was moved so that they weren't head-on battling opening weekend.
Because this is kind of like Disney Animation's... This is what they do. This is when like Frozen opened.
Yes,
This is when
that's
Tangled
true.
opened. So I would be surprised if they moved, but I honestly don't remember.
Well, Wicked had nothing to be scared of, apparently. That box office did really well, as did Gladiator 2.
If you can steal your own weekend, it's always good.
Which weekend is always good?
I said if they can steal their own weekend, if they don't have to compete, then sure. I mean, I know they competed against Gladiator, but yeah, there's...
Gladiator did pretty well as well, so it'll be an interesting Thanksgiving weekend at the box office. So enjoy Moana 2 if you're going to go see that. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Kyle, I do have one thing I want to ask of you before the last House of Mouse headlines.
Sure.
In the next 2 weeks, before we record the next House of Mouse headlines, will you watch The Santa Claus and give a report?
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you.
I got texts, and I know you put it up as a reel.
Oh, you got texts from people? Who?
I got a text of me before the reel went up, of like, you haven't seen the Santa Claus.
Who, Aaron?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. So yes, please do that. I do want a full report on your honest opinions of your first viewing of The Santa Claus starring Tim Allen. And speaking of the holidays, folks, I do want to remind folks that Disney Coast to Coast has done a lot of holiday and Christmas episodes through the years. I do have a DCTC holiday playlist. They are evergreen episodes. And just like you repeat holiday movies every year, and I'm not just saying this because it's my show, I think a lot of these DCTC holiday episodes deserve some repeating, and you should give them a listen, even if you've heard them before. I love them. I listen to them. Is that narcissistic? That's probably a little narcissistic.
Maybe a little bit, but it's okay.
I really like some of the Christmas episodes I've done through the years. Muppet Christmas Carol, Home Alone, and just park stuff. They're really good in my opinion. So all I'm saying is, even if you've listened to every episode, thank you. Revisit the holiday playlist. I'll leave it in the episode's description, and hopefully enjoy as we are fully in the holiday season now. Kyle, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks, sir.
All right, you too. I'll see you soon.
You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think of the latest Muppets news? Share your thoughts on that or any other topics mentioned in today's episode. Call 818-860-2569, and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast on your favorite podcast app, where episodes are available 24/7. This episode has been executive produced by Jeffrey Riccio. Gain rewards like Jeffrey, including access to never-before-heard episodes and live-stream Ask Me Anythings, by visiting the Patreon link in this episode's description. Until next time, anything you need can be found in this episode's description, from the DCTC hotline where you can leave a voicemail and be heard on a future episode, contact info to reach me, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!